I left my job and flew across the country to care for my sick father. When he passed, I found out he left everything, house, savings, even his classic car, to my younger brother, who hadn't called him in years. I earned it by staying out of the drama, he said. I opened my bag that night and found the old tape recorder I forgot I packed. What was on it made me. I'm still trying to figure out if I'm angry, heartbroken, or just tired. Maybe all three. It's been a few months now, and I can't get one thing my brother said out of my head. I earned it by staying out of the drama. Let me explain. Last year, I left my job in New York to go care for my dad in Oregon. He was sick, really sick. Stage 4 lung cancer, late diagnosis, already spreading. I got the call from his neighbor, who found him collapsed in the yard trying to drag a trash can to the curb. I asked if Shane had called. She said, "Who?" That should have told me everything. But it didn't. I flew out the next day. I packed a bag in a rush. I didn't even take time to process it. I just dropped everything, left my apartment, my job, my friends, my life. I kept telling myself it was temporary, just until he got better. Or, well, I didn't let myself think past that. When I got to the house, it smelled like old wood and too many meals left uneaten. He looked small. I don't mean thin, just like he'd shrunk somehow. Like life had already let go of him, and he was the only one still holding on. He didn't talk much. Most days, we just sat in the living room. He'd drift in and out while the TV played. Sometimes he'd ask for toast or soup. Sometimes he'd just stare out the window. I did everything: meals, meds, laundry, cleaning. Took him to every appointment. I even slept in the recliner some nights in case he needed help getting to the bathroom. Shane didn't call. Not once. Not even after I texted him. I tried 3 times. No response. That was our younger brother. The one who always needed space. The one who walked out after that big argument with Dad years ago and never really came back. Nobody knew what the fight was about. Dad never said. Shane just disappeared. Maybe a holiday card here or there, but nothing real. He didn't visit. Didn't call. And Dad never reached out either. I figured maybe that was just how they were. Anyway, Dad died in January. Quietly. I was sitting right there reading. I didn't even realize he'd stopped breathing until I noticed the room was silent. Completely silent. I think I sat there for 10 minutes before I moved. I planned the funeral. Picked the music. Found a decent photo for the program. Wrote the eulogy. Shane finally showed up for that part, wearing a new leather jacket and acting like it was a business trip. He barely said a word to me. No emotion, no tears. Just nodded during the service like he was checking something off a list. A week later, we met with the lawyer to go over the will. That's when everything changed. The lawyer opened the folder and started reading, and I swear I felt the air leave the room. Dad left everything to Shane. The house. The savings. The retirement account. His '72 Barracuda that he spent 20 years rebuilding. My name wasn't mentioned once. I thought it had to be a mistake. I looked at Shane. He didn't even flinch. Just sat there calmly, like he'd known the whole time. Afterward, I pulled him aside. I asked him, flat out, why would Dad do this? He gave me this little shrug and said, I earned it by staying out of the drama. I think I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. That night, I checked into a crappy little motel off Route 22. I couldn't be in that house another second. I was too angry to sleep. I started unpacking my stuff to calm down. And that's when I found it. An old tape recorder. One of those little handheld ones with the tiny cassettes. I used it back in high school to record ideas and notes. I didn't mean to bring it. Must have tossed it in the bag, without thinking. I sat on the bed and hit play, not expecting much. But it was Dad's voice. Crackly, tired, but clear. It sounded like it was recorded maybe a year or 2 ago. October 9th, he said. I don't think I have much time left. He went on to talk about his estate. His voice shook a little when he said Shane's name. I know he hasn't called, he said. I know he walked away. But I wasn't a good father to him. Not when he was young. I didn't protect him when he needed it. I let things happen that I never should have. I froze. If I give him something now, maybe he'll know I didn't forget. Then he talked about me. And if you're listening to this, Sam, I'm sorry. There was a long pause. You were always here. Always the one who came back. And I punished you for it. I made it harder on you, because I knew you could take it. That wasn't fair. You didn't deserve that. He sounded like he was crying, or trying not to. I don't know if this will ever reach you, but I needed to say it somewhere. Then the tape clicked off. I played it again, and again, and again. And I just sat there, staring at the wall, not sure what to do next. The next morning, I didn't go back to the house. I didn't text Shane. I drove aimlessly for a while, past empty lots and half-frozen fields, listening to the tape over and over. I kept thinking he left it all to Shane because he felt guilty. Not because Shane deserved it. Not because he earned it. Just guilt. That's what I got replaced by. I called the lawyer later that day, told him about the tape, asked if there was anything we could do, any way to challenge the will. He said unless there's a newer written version, or proof Dad wasn't in his right mind when he signed it, there's nothing. The tape wouldn't hold up. But, he said, hesitating, if that recording was made recently and if there were signs of cognitive decline, I knew what he meant. Start digging. So I did. I went back to the house when I knew Shane wouldn't be there. He said he was driving down to California for a few weeks to figure things out. He handed me a spare key like he was being generous. Like he didn't just inherit everything I spent months taking care of. I searched Dad's office. Found old medical records, journal entries, even a folder labeled Estate, Future, that had drafts of letters in his handwriting, one of them addressed to me. It wasn't finished. Just a few lines. Sam, I wish I had told you this sooner, but the rest was blank. Torn out, maybe. Or maybe he couldn't finish it. I also found something else. Buried in a drawer. A letter. Written years ago. From Shane. The handwriting was messy, angry. The date was from right after he moved out. You stood there and let her scream at me. You let her lock me out. I was a kid, and you looked away. I will never forget that. Her. He was talking about our stepmom. I'd forgotten how bad it got. How she used to yell and throw things when Dad wasn't around. How Shane got it the worst. I was older, I had ways to hide. Shane just got the raw end of it. And Dad, he always told us to keep the peace. To be quiet. To not make things worse. But the letter made it clear, Shane remembered everything. I don't think Dad ever replied. At least not in writing. I sat in that office, surrounded by boxes, staring at all this truth I didn't know I was holding. The guilt. The silence. The way Dad tried to make up for it with money. And the way Shane decided that meant he'd won. But here's the part that changed everything. The next week, I got a message from a woman named Claire. Said she worked at the hospice Dad almost went into before I showed up. She said, he used to call late at night just to talk. He was scared. He didn't want to die alone. I asked why she was reaching out now. She said, he mentioned you. A lot. Said if you ever needed anything, to tell you he did his best. I don't know why, but that felt like another message. Like maybe he knew the will wasn't fair, and maybe he hoped I'd understand anyway. But here's where it gets worse. A few days later, I got a call from a towing company. Are you Sam? The guy asked. I said yes. We have a 72 Barracuda here. It was scheduled for pickup and transport to California, but something went wrong with the paperwork. The title's still under your father's name. It needs a family signature. I asked who scheduled it.
Shane, he said.
But he didn't finish the process. Car's just sitting here. Just sitting there. Waiting. I drove straight to the lot. It was a small place behind a chain-link fence, out near the edge of town. The guy behind the desk walked me back, and there it was, Dad's Barracuda. The one he used to work on every Sunday afternoon, always with a beer in hand, some old rock station playing low from the garage radio. He rebuilt that thing bolt by bolt over 2 decades. I'd helped him sand it once when I was 13, got yelled at for missing a spot, then got a slice of pizza, and a pat on the back 5 minutes later. It didn't belong to Shane. The guy said I couldn't take it without paperwork, but he let me look. Inside the glove box was Dad's registration and something else. A sealed envelope. No name on it, just the word drive. I took it, got back in my car, and just stared at it for a while. Thought about calling Shane. Thought about driving straight to California. But instead, I opened it. Inside was a single note, written in Dad's handwriting. If you're reading this, it means you found the car before he got it.
Good.
He'll sell it. You won't.
This is yours, Sam.
Don't tell the lawyer.
Just drive.
I swear to God, I sat there for 10 minutes trying to process what that meant. I even laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was the first thing that felt like a real message from my father. Like he'd left a crack in the wall just for me. So, I did something stupid. I took the car. Not legally. Not through any proper channels. I just found the hidden spare key. It was in the back seat, taped under the cushion, classic dad move, started the engine, and drove it out of that lot like I'd been given permission by a ghost. And no one stopped me. I drove it back to the motel and parked it out of sight. It felt like the only real thing I had from him. And it wasn't even mine on paper. The next morning, I got a voicemail from Shane. "You really want to do this?" he said. "Steal from me? After everything?" He didn't mention the letter. Didn't mention the tape. Just called me a thief. But it wasn't until later that I realized something else. The tape. I hadn't told anyone about it. Not the lawyer, not Claire, not Shane. But the motel front desk clerk mentioned something strange earlier that morning when I went to get coffee. "Your friend stopped by," he said. Tall guy, dark coat? Said he was here to check in on you. I told him I couldn't say if you were here or not. Hope that's okay. I never told anyone where I was staying. And that's when it hit me. Shane knew about the tape. He'd been in the house since I left. He must have found another copy. Or maybe he remembered Dad recording things. Maybe he thought he could control what came out. Silence me before I said too much. Because if the tape got out, if people knew why Dad gave him everything, that it wasn't about worth or love or earning it, just guilt, then maybe the whole story would fall apart. And Shane couldn't let that happen. I still have the car. It's parked 2 blocks away under a tarp, like I'm waiting for someone to come take it back. I don't drive it. I don't even look at it most days. Sometimes I just sit there in silence and think about how my father tried to fix the past by writing checks and secrets. And how my brother called that earning it. I didn't lose the money. Or the house. What I lost was the version of my family I thought I understood. And now I don't know if I ever really knew them at all.